Hello, my name is Staff Sergeant Joel Tavera, U.S. Army retired. I was blown up in Nazaré, Iraq, March 12th of 2008. Almost a year and like a few weeks after graduating high school, with a year of college under my belt, I joined the U.S. Army. I got to the Middle East October of 2007. I moved around from base to base to base on volunteer status. We have this mission, so we need a soldier to do this. Like, I'm game. Pack your stuff up. You'll be on the convoy going out, or you'll be flying out. It's like, perfect, no problems. Last duty station in the Middle East was Camp Delta off the Tigris River, the Tigris and Euphrates. Then I left from there to Talil. Camp Talil was where Captain, who is now Lieutenant Colonel Lombardo, was the Provost Marshal. I would have met him if I got caught being stupid.
March 12th, 2008. That's the day that really changed my life and a lot of other lives that day.
My roommate actually was given that duty, and he didn't want to do it, so he shamed. I volunteered for the duty. Normally we don't get hit on Tuesday mornings, but we had 13 rockets coming that day. I heard the first one hit, but I didn't realize it was a rocket.
It was early, around 5:30 in the morning. I got up when I heard the first rocket impact. I had my radio with me, and I heard a report that a rocket hit around the outside the main gate area. So I jumped in my vehicle, grabbed all my protective gear.
Second rocket hit the truck.
And probably a couple hundred yards in front of me was another vehicle. Rocket came from the sky and smashed that vehicle, blew it up.
I thankfully managed to get that door pried a little bit, so when it hit, I was flung, but I'm not sure how. I may have been partway in the vehicle, or was I can't, it was just all a blur.
By the time I got up to the vehicle, there was one individual who got out of the vehicle and ran off. When I approached the vehicle, it was on intense flames. I noticed somebody off to the side. He was completely in flames. I
was bloody. One leg was missing, one eye was fried like an egg, the other one's blown out completely, and I was just burned.
I was able to grab him and move him about 30 feet away. He had severe burns to his face, his body.
I remember being on the ground, hearing rounds pop off, and then hearing Kevin's voice. He's talking to me, and then I remember something covering me.
One of the Army guys took off his flak jacket. I took my flak jacket off, and we covered the Army soldier on the ground. I didn't know what his name was, never met him before.
I had no idea how severely I was injured. I just knew that I felt pain, and then I didn't. I felt pain, then I didn't.
I was working on Joel, trying to get an IV put into his arm. He was chatting, he was talking, he was asking questions, and I was just trying to talk to him to keep him talking. That's what we're taught. One of the weird things that, to this day, I didn't remember it until after I was in PTSD counseling and everything, but when we took off his jacket to put his IV in, I noticed that his entire arm was just burned, and he had a patch of skin on his right arm, and he had a tattoo, and the tattoo was of a cross, and it had underneath it had Hebrews, and then one thing that's just weird to me was he had 412. I just remember it struck immediately in my head, 412. 412 is my birthday, and I told myself that this airman or this soldier, I just need to do everything possible to try to keep him alive. So they loaded up Joel in the ambulance, and that was the last I saw him at that time.
And then I went into a coma. I was in a coma for 81 days. And I woke up in San Antonio, Texas at Brooke Army Medical Center.
Through the deployment, we just hear things back and forth on how he was doing, and he was still alive. That's all I knew. Time for the deployment to end. Things just weren't the same. I knew things weren't the same with me. I went through some extensive PTSD counseling, and one of the things the doc asked me was, how's all I remembered at the time was Tavera. How's Tavera doing? And I said, I haven't heard anything. And I went home that night and I did some research, and I found out that somebody's Facebook post mentioned that he was down in Texas, and I called down there one day, just out of the blue, and from my office, and I talked to somebody at a desk, and I said, I'm trying to find Specialist Tavera. He's probably in the burn unit. So they transferred me to the burn unit.
The liaison had said something to my father. Hey, we have a person who was on, he was the person on the base that administered medical aid to your son. He's been calling, bugging, trying to find out how your son's been doing. Like Sergeant Tavera, like, oh, okay. So my dad got the hold of the phone, started talking to Kevin.
We talked, and he thanked me, and I didn't want him to thank me. And he told me about a ceremony that they were going to be having for Joel in the next couple months, and he said, Joel never got his Purple Heart ceremony. And I was able to go to Joel's Purple Heart ceremony, where I was told to go into another room, and that's when Jose, Maritza, Mama Tavera, brought Joel in, and he was in a wheelchair. When I saw him, it just brought back so many of the things that he was talking about. His voice was so strong that day on March 12th. It was strong. And when I heard him talk for the first time, it was low, slow, and deliberate. And it was amazing just to hear his voice, to touch him, to hear him interact with his mom and dad. His mom, Mama T, was just, she just gave me a big hug and a kiss and said, "You are my son now too." And literally for the next 6 months, we just had a blast. He went from being in a hospital bed to barely able to move around to us being able to go out, and we actually got him salsa dancing. I want to say, he always tells me how much I helped him. In those 6 months of me being with him and his mom and dad, that helped me out so amazing. My family was able to come down to Tampa. They met his family. My 3 kids adore Joel. And during one of the months there, Joel was talking about how he got invited to a Wounded Warrior event. So I went up to that weekend with them, and I met these 2 brothers, John and David Hart.
Warrior Weekend is amazing. Having jumped with Team Fastrax out in Texas with Halo for Heroes, I was invited to Warrior Weekend.
Joel said, "I want to go skydiving." And these guys looked at Joel and they're like, his dad's like, he wants to go. So Joel, David Hart strapped Joel up, and those 2 went skydiving. I've seen Joel at his absolute worst. I haven't seen Joel at his best yet.
My healing's not completed, but I'm still having a blast in the process. So it seems like it's continual.
This March will be 10 years. What's going to happen in another 10 years with him? Where he went from bedridden in a coma to skydiving, jumping out of a plane at 13,500 feet.